Let's dive into the epic rise, the complex administration, and the lasting legacy of the Maratha Empire. If you've ever wondered how a regional powerhouse managed to challenge the mighty Mughals and completely reshape the Indian subcontinent, well, you are absolutely in the right place. Welcome to The Explainer. To make sure we explain this incredibly detailed history clearly and really make it easier for you to grasp all the moving parts, we're going to use this quick cognitive roadmap. We'll start with their origins, move right into the legendary rise of Shivaji, break down their ingenious military tactics, explore their culture, and finally, look at their successors and ultimate fall. All right, Section 1, the origins of the Marathas. To really understand the roots of this empire, we have to look at the history of the Deccan Plateau. The Marathas, native to present-day Maharashtra, were deeply united by the Marathi language, which actually has a rich literary history stretching all the way back to the 12th century. They were ruled by the Yadavas in the 13th century before the Khilji Sultanate took over. But what is truly crucial to their story is the Bhakti movement between the 7th and 17th centuries. Saints like Dnyaneshwar composed beautiful devotional songs in local languages and translated massive texts like the Bhagavad Gita. They focused heavily on social organization. And this shared cultural and spiritual awakening, it wove the exact social fabric that would eventually unite them into a formidable political force. Moving on to Section 2, the rise of Shivaji. The ultimate spark that ignited the Maratha Empire was, without a doubt, Shivaji. Born in 1630, he was raised primarily by his mother, Jijabai, and she was instrumental here, ensuring his education and instilling incredibly strong values in him from day one. Driven by this upbringing, a young Shivaji literally didn't wait around. Can you imagine starting your military campaigns at just 16 years old? Because that's exactly what he did. He systematically and swiftly captured neglected forts in the Pune region to consolidate his early control. Now, to understand just how revolutionary Shivaji was, we need to quickly break down the traditional power structure of the time. The key term to know here is Jagir. A Jagir was essentially a land grant given by a ruler in exchange for service, and it allowed the recipient to collect taxes directly from that land. So why does this matter to our story? Because to make his new administration super efficient and centralized, Shivaji later completely abolished these hereditary land assignments. He stopped local lords from hoarding power. It was a massive structural shift for the era. And before we dive deeper into his administration, we have to talk about this brilliantly daring historical anecdote. Shivaji was actually invited to the Mughal court at Agra. But when he arrived, the Mughal emperor Aurangzeb insulted him by forcing him to stand with lower-ranked officials. Shivaji naturally stormed out and was promptly placed under house arrest. But he didn't panic. Instead, he initiated a very clever plan, distributing these large baskets of gifts to holy men. Once the guards grew lazy and stopped checking the baskets, Shivaji and his son Sambhaji hid inside them and pulled off this heist-like escape right under the Mughal guards' noses. It is a legendary moment. Let's move to Section 3, military and naval innovation. See, the Marathas didn't fight massive, traditional, pitched battles where they knew they'd be outnumbered. Instead, their battlefield dominance relied heavily on guerrilla warfare. This was built on 3 pillars. First, terrain. They used their intimate, unparalleled knowledge of the mountainous Deccan region. Second, speed. Small, highly mobile units would strike with total surprise and then retreat instantly. And third, forts. They built a strategic network of fortresses that provided immediate shelter and solid supply lines. Their enemies simply couldn't catch them. This immense speed allowed Shivaji to conduct famous lightning-fast raids. In retaliation for years of Mughal attacks, he actually sacked the wealthy Mughal port city of Surat. And he extracted enormous treasure, worth almost 1 crore rupees. That was a staggering, mind-blowing sum at the time. The event was so shocking, it was literally reported in the London Gazette. But pay close attention to this specific detail. Despite the massive raid, Shivaji very carefully spared religious sites and the homes of charitable individuals. He operated with a very distinct, strict code of conduct. And this next point highlights a stark contrast in strategy. While rivals like the Bijapur Sultanate only had basic merchant ships, and the massive Mughal Empire largely neglected the sea altogether, Shivaji did something truly revolutionary. He built a full-time, dedicated naval force to secure India's west coast. Under commanders like Kanhoji Angre, the Maratha Navy became absolutely legendary. They reached as far as Muscat, Oman, and directly challenged European dominance. They even forced the Europeans to buy Maratha naval trade passes. Just incredible foresight. Bringing us to Section 4, Administration and Culture. So at the very top of their complex, centralized government was the Ashta Pradhana, which was a highly organized council of 8 ministers assisting the king. Now, to fund this expanding state, they developed a very specific taxation system for outside provinces. This consisted of the choth, a 25% tax, and the sardashmuki, an additional 10% tax. This clever system ensured a steady, reliable flow of revenue from territories that weren't even under their direct day-to-day control. Internally, they were highly organized and deeply invested in their culture. Remember those Jagirs we talked about earlier? Shivaji replaced those hereditary posts with state-salaried officials who were regularly transferred. That meant no single official could build up too much local power. Culturally, he commissioned the Raja Vyavahar Kosha to replace Persian diplomatic terms with Sanskrit and Marathi, and he adopted the cursive Modi script for official correspondence. Furthermore, he was a devout Hindu who fiercely respected all religions, flying a saffron flag for all Marathas, actively rebuilding desecrated temples, and even providing pensions to the widows of fallen soldiers. Finally, Section 5, Successors in the Final Fall. Following Shivaji's death, things got incredibly tough. His son Sambhaji was captured and brutally executed by Aurangzeb. But the Marathas did not break. And here, we absolutely must highlight the mighty women who stepped up to save and expand the empire. Tarabai, the fearless warrior queen, took charge, organized the armies, and brilliantly outsmarted the Mughals to preserve Maratha independence. Later on, Ahilyabai Holkar emerged as a wise ruler of the central Indian kingdom. For 30 years, she rebuilt hundreds of temples and roads across India and revived the famous Maheshwar weaving industry. As the empire grew over time, it went through a massive structural transformation. The highly centralized state of Shivaji's era transitioned into a decentralized confederacy, led by the Peshwa, or prime minister. Under Peshwas like Baji Rao I, the Marathas expanded aggressively, and this pan-Indian expansion was staggering. They briefly controlled Lahore and Peshawar in modern-day Pakistan, and later, under Mahadaji Shinde, they even recaptured Delhi in 1771, holding it for 3 whole decades. But as we know, every empire eventually faces its sunset. Ultimately, it wasn't the Mughals who took India from the Marathas, it was the British. Between 1775 and 1818, 3 Anglo-Maratha wars were fought. The British succeeded for 3 core reasons. First, that newly decentralized structure led to increased internal disunity among the various Maratha chiefs. Second, the British simply possessed superior organizational abilities at the time. And third, the advanced military technology of the British forces eventually overwhelmed the legendary Maratha cavalry. Even though the physical empire fell to the British, their legacy is completely undeniable. Their efficient administration and profound cultural revival left a permanent mark on the subcontinent. And this leaves us with a really powerful final thought to ponder. Though they were ultimately defeated, did the Marathas' fierce fight against oppressive rule and their unwavering ideal of Swarajya, or self-rule, actually plant the earliest seeds that would eventually inspire the modern independence movement to free all of India? I want you to think about that as you process everything we've uncovered today. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.